Hello. Probably like a year ago now, I joked that my first ever speedrun was going to be the Barnacle Goose Experiment, and now I am finally making good on that promise. So I'm gonna just get right into things. So in this game, you play as a scientist who's kind of forced to undergo this experiment where they trap themselves in a dome away from society. They're specifically a researcher in abiogenesis, which is the creation of something from nothing or of life from non-life. This is a game by Everest Pipkin. If you are involved in tabletop spaces, you might know their name from World Ending Game or The Ground itself. I tried to 100% this game a couple days ago to see if I could optimize some routes, and it ended up crashing my browser. So I'm mainly going off the routing work of Kit Buckley. Sorry, I gotta pay attention to numbers. Okay. Alright. So as you can see, I have 3 actions I can do right now. I can cry, piss, or spit. Slowly, my body will generate dust on the floor. We are at the floor right now. It is sterile and scrubbed. You can generate new locations in this game, but we're not going to get that far. Trying to any percent this. So I'm waiting to generate more dust. This game has a couple downtimes, or at least this run does, where I'm going to have to wait for some things to be created. Right now, we have our combinations going. The in-game clock is not the same as the out-of-game clock, as you can see. There's dust and tier. But yeah, I have, for some of our longer dom times, I have followed Kit's lead, and I am going to be reading some poetry. So, for now, I'm keeping my head on a swivel for some more dust and some sand. The rain can wait. Ooh, I should do. So if you exhaust the living meter, you die, which we want to do eventually, but I'm not sure how that interacts with dust generation, and so I don't want to mess with it until I have to. Yeah. So yeah, the mechanics, you have objects on the floor, you can hold them, you can combine them. There are different ways to combine things, and sometimes the order in which you combine things changes what the outcome is, so you gotta be careful. If you are trying to optimize your run, which I am. If not, you can just make wherever. The name of this game, the Barnacle Goose Experiment, is actually in reference to an old myth that barnacle geese either spontaneously generated or were born from barnacles. It's an odd, like, folklore thing that is actually, like, pretty widely distributed across some cultures. Obviously, that's not the case, but it is interesting, and it's kind of what we're trying to do here. I also find it interesting, the scientist that we're playing as is Evergreen G. Bronca, which sounds a lot like Bronta, which is the genus that barnacle geese are in. So when you're dead, there are only a few things you can do. You can rot and you can dream. Once I pick up this dream, I can dream the dream. And I'll see a little segment. Curtain wall. Smoke. You collapse. Castle. A child finds a friend on the roof. Wake up. Those little bits kind of remind me of Sappho's fragments, but we're gonna now combine rain and dream twice. And then the pissy times. I tend to put things back on the floor so I don't mistakenly combine the wrong things. Alright, blood and tear 2 times. And then tear and tear and tear. And then eyelash. And we gotta wait for some more dust. Dust, and then pebble and mud, which is the longest thing. That's going to make our coffee, which is going to take the longest out of anything. What else we got? Another pebble and rain. And a pebble and piss. This is a tricky one, don't get that wrong. Then I have to spit twice. Dead again. It's okay, I will just dream another dream. Dormitory. Transparent walls. Drift. You blink. A woman sits behind the front desk. Wake up. Alright, and now we are waiting for paper to be made. Should be soon. I'm also going to pick up the tear because we're going to have to combine tear and fingernail. Yeah, over the course of this game you generate like larger and larger items. It becomes more and more complex, and then your ultimate goal is to generate an airlock door to get yourself out of this experiment that you were placed in unwillingly. And the only things that make the airlock door are a collection of letters. It's actually fewer letter type items than you can make. We're looking for a letter from your mother, a letter from X, who is a former lover, a letter from your department, letter from collections, and letter from your neighbor. But you can also make junk mail, and you can make a postcard from a friend. Alright, and now we're going to have to wait a bit because we have to wait for Tear and Fingernail to make shell. So I'm going to open up the first of our poems. This is The School of the Unschoolable by Chen Chen. See the stars nightly disobeying the night. Watch the pattering rain sketch an anarchist's map to the future, then unpattern it away, an anarchist's revision. Praise my mother, who wears a plaid hoodie over polka dot sweater, over simply brown sweater. Praise your fashion icon, though I doubt she's as iconoclastic. Prove my doubts so wrong. Call the sun the heterophobe it's always been. Never stop babbling to old friends or fields about your earliest whiff of banana bread. Lick the sad from the sea, and on a Tuesday, flabbergast in some earthly mouthful of a way, and tonight. Let's see. I have a couple others pulled up. Okay, this is The Kingfisher by Mary Oliver. The kingfisher rises out of the black wave, like a blue flower in his beak. He carries a silver leaf. I think this is the prettiest world, so long as you don't mind a little dying. How could there be a day in your whole life that doesn't have a splash of happiness? There are more fish than there are leaves on 1,000 trees, and anyway, the kingfisher wasn't born to think about it, or anything else. When the wave snaps shut over its blue head, the water remains water. Hunger is the only story he has ever heard in his life, that he could believe. I don't think he's right. Neither do I say he's wrong. Religiously, he swallows the silver leaf with its broken red river, and with a rough and easy cry, I couldn't rouse out of my thoughtful body if my life depended on it, he swings back over the bright sea to do the same thing, to do it as long as I long to do something, anything, perfectly. Let's see. We've got a bit still. Okay, this is another Mary Oliver, At Black River. All day its stark, slick bronze soaks in a mossy place, its teeth a multitude set for the comedy that never comes, its tail knobbed and shiny, and with a heavy weight's punched, packed around the bone. In beautiful Florida he is king of his own part of the Black River, and from his nap he will wake into the warm darkness to boom and thrust forward, paralyzing the swift, thin-waisted fish or the bird in its frilled white gown that has dipped down from the heaven of leaves one last time to drink. If I were smart, I would have prepared myself a beverage, but it's fine. Now that I think of it, there aren't many beverages that you make in this game. You can make milk, but otherwise the things that you can drink are rain and piss. I don't think you can drink blood. Seems like an oversight. But... And you can't make just water. You can make rain, you can make spit, you can make piss, but you can't make just water. Eventually you make oceans and rivers. I think there's other biomes that are watery. You start with floor, and there's spring. Spring, a knoll, ocean, river, mountain, forest, and then you can make a hut, a house, a library, a lecture hall. There's probably others that I never discovered due to my game crashing my browser. the funny thing is, most of these things that we have right now don't generate other things. But once you get things that do generate other things, like, for example, the goose generates an egg, and eggs generate geese, it can redouble, and suddenly you have like 4,000 eggs, and you have to try to eat like 1,000 of them to stop it from making that your whole activity. It actually does get to the point where it's hard to click on things because your action tab is just going and going and going. Should get our shell soon. I just got a birthday text from my aunt. Dust and shell, and then salts. We have to wait for some seeds to generate. Although we can do honey, green, paper. And that's the first of our letters. So this is the letter from X, RX. Very wistful. I don't know if you can hear my cat whining right now. It's not dinner time yet, Beanie Baby. Okay. Salt plus seed, that'll make bread. And we're gonna need spit, paper, and we're waiting for a book. So it's gonna take a bit, so I will pull up another poem. So this is Fiat Looks by Tracy Brimhall. My sister asks what ate the bird's eyes as she cradles the dead chickadee she found on the porch. Ants, I say, knowing the soft ocular cells are the easiest way into the red feast of the heart, liver, kidney. I tell her that when they ate the bird, they saw the blue bold sky, the patchwork of soybean fields and sunflowers, a bear loping across a gravel road. Already they are bringing back to their tunnels the slow chapters of spring, a slough drying to become a meadow in the bruised smell of sex inside of flowers. They start to itch for a mate's black feathered cheeks and music. As she cushions the eggs, their queen dreams of young chickadees stretching their necks and crying for their mother to protect them until they learn to see. Sister, it is like this. The visions begin to waver, and the colony goes mad, fearful they'll never see another dahlia tell its purple rumor, or see a river commit itself to the ocean. As the last memory leaves them, they twitch in their sleep, trying to make out the distant boatman lifting his lantern, his face disfigured by light. Right. Whew. I did not pull up enough poems, so we are just pulling up more Mary Oliver from the Poetry Foundation. That's what she's there for. This is a very Mary Oliver game. This one is The Hermit Crab. Once I looked inside the darkness of a shell, folded like a pastry, and there was a fancy face, or almost a face. It turned away and frisked up its brawny forearms so quickly against the light, and by looking in, I scarcely had time to see it gleaming. Alright, this is another Chen Chen. I love you to the moon and. Not back, let's not come back. Let's go by the speed of queer zest and stay up there and get ourselves a little moon cottage, so pretty. And then start a moon garden with lots of moon veggies, so healthy. I mean, I was already moonlighting as an online moonologist most weekends, so this is the immensely logical next step. Are you packing your bags yet? Don't forget your Sailor Moon jean jacket. Let's wear our Sailor Moon jean jackets while twirling in that lighter, queerer moon gravity. Let's love each other so good on the moon. Let's love the moon on the moon. You can make the moon in this game. Make it out of, I believe, meteors and ice. Or, well, there's usually more than one recipe for a thing in this game. Part of why I was looking to 100% it, because right now the most difficult letter to get is, I believe, I forget if it's the department letter or the conference letter, one of those, which you have to get by making coffee. But coffee takes a while. That's our pebbles x mud. That's going to take up the longest amount of time in this run. And so if there's a way to get that letter, without making coffee, but in a way that was faster than making coffee, that might slim down the run considerably. But my results were inconclusive. A lot of these recipes that we're using for this run are the most basic version. There are some, like the letter from Mom, where you can make it with like an apple pie, but to make an apple pie it requires making an apple, and to making an apple usually requires making a seed or a branch, which requires making something else. So this is the most winnowed down version thus far. Maybe in the future someone will come up with a more efficient route. Maybe that'll be me. Alright. That little click when something generates, like, makes me feel like a Pavlovian dog. I'm waiting on this paper times paper to make book. And then also there's salt times seed to make bread. Those will be for our next few letters. Actually, I can piss now. I'm going to need that later. I think that's the last of these actions that we have to do. Yeah. But yeah, this is, of the idle clicker games I've played, this is the most narrative heavy, I would say. Something like Cookie Clicker, it's you click the cookie, you buy the thing, but this has the letters, obviously. It has the intro narrative of being sent here or facing forced conscription. That's, I don't need that, but thank you. And it has the ultimate narrative of the way that you finally make your escape from this place is by combining letters from places that love you and places that do not. Sort of as a way of building a tether to the outside world. But the thing is that, like, all of these letters that are created from materials within inside the dome. You create what would be a letter from your mother, which would not actually make it inside. So it is an imagined tie to the real world. I think that's neat. Let's see. Do I have time to go back to Mary Oliver for a bit? Trying to keep my head on a swivel. Waiting for that book. Yeah. There we go. Yes, okay. That's our letter from our department basically saying, hey, we approved your sabbatical to be extended because you're trapped in a dome for a bit, so yeah, you're good. You don't have to teach. Right. Next one. Cream, honey, and bread. Looking for our bread. Dream, honey, and bread is the letter from Mom. And then, let's see, plastic and piss and paper is the letter from collections. Hey, your payments on your house are delinquent because you're not living there because you're trapped inside a dome. What's up with that? Next is frog is this pebble. Rain, rain. Okay. That's the letter from your neighbor. She's looking after our plants. Thanks, Marjorie. Or no, that's Verity. She was mentioning Marjorie. Alright. Now we just have to wait for coffee to stop brewing. I'm going to collect my final letters, paper, spit, and coffee. I'm also going to collect my other letters. When we open the airlock door, all the materials inside slowly start to disintegrate into their component parts, which can take a long time if you've played the game for more than a speedrun's allotment of time. In the meantime, I'm going to read some more Mary Oliver. This is Rain. All afternoon it rained, then. Such a power came down from the clouds on a yellow thread, as authoritative as God is supposed to be. When it hit the tree, her body opened forever. This Morning Glories. Blue and dark blue, rose and deepest rose, white and pink, they are everywhere in the diligent cornfield, rising and swaying in their reliable finery, in the little fling of their bodies, their gear and tackle, all caught up in the cornstalks. The reaper's story is the story of endless work, of work careful and heavy, but the reaper cannot separate them out there. They are in the story of his life, bright random useless, year after year, taken with the serious tons of weeds, without value humors, beautiful weeds. Ooh. I realized the other day that I had thought I had collected more poems than I actually have. Reading off my phone right now, but I tend to squirrel things away. But I always think I squirrel more things away than I actually do. Alright, back to Chen Chen. When I grow up, I want to be a list of future possibilities. To be a good ex/current friend for R. To be one less inspired way to get back at R. To be relationship advice for L. To be advice from my mother, to be a more comfortable hospital bed for my mother, to be no more hospital beds, to be, in my spare time, America for my uncle, who wants to be China for me, to be a country of trafficless roads and a sports car for my aunt, who likes to go fast, to be a cyclone of laughter when my parents say their new coworker is like that. They can tell, because he wears pink socks, see? You don't, so you can't be one of them. To be the one my parents raised me to be, a season from the planet of planet-sized storms. To be a backpack of PB&J and everything I know for my brothers, who are becoming their own storms. To be, for me, nobody, homebody, body in bed, watching TV. To go 2D and be a painting, an amateur's hilltop and stars, simple decoration for the new apartment with you. To be close, Jay, to everything that is close to you. Blue blanket, red cup, green shoes with pink laces. To be the blue and the red, the green, the hot pink. Ugh. I really should read more poetry than I have been. I feel like I read a lot when I was in undergrad, when I was in poetry classes, and when I was uh, editing a literary magazine, and now it's much more sparing, unfortunately. It's, let's pull up a Richard Seek. This is real estate. My mother married a man who divorced her for her money. Phyllis, he would say, if you don't stop buying jewelry, I will have to divorce you to keep us out of the poorhouse. When he said this, he would stub out a cigarette, mutter something under his breath. Oh, when he said this, she would stub out a cigarette, mutter something under her breath. Eventually, he was forced to divorce her. Then he died. Then she did. The man was not my father. My father was buried down the road, in a box his other son selected, the ashes of his third wife in a brass urn that he will hold in the crook of his arm forever. At the reception, after his funeral, I got mean on 4 cups of lime sherbet punch. When the man who was not my father divorced my mother, I stopped being related to him. These things are complicated, says the Talmud. When he died, I couldn't prove it. I couldn't get a death certificate. These things are complicated, said the health department. Their names remain on the deed to the house. It isn't haunted, it's owned by ghosts. When I die, I will come in fast and low. I will stick the landing. There will be no confusion. The dead will make room for me. Once more to Mary Oliver. This is the owl. Last night the owl bunched in the tree outside our window. Softly he boomed, and then again, and then was gone. And not once did we think of the god of plunge and blood, of iron mouths. No, we thought, if we thought of anything, of the god of pleasure and good luck, of the god of happy life. Then we drifted away to sleep, over the fields, softly, on our own dark wings. We are coming close, but not close to the end. There are currently only 2 entries for this run on speedrun.com, and they're both around the 35-minute mark. Here's our coffee, we get our conference letter, and we get our airlock, and we open the airlock. And we're done. 35, 37. You'll see as things break down, it breaks down into things we haven't necessarily generated. So these are potential ways to create the letters and all the stuff that we have. But eventually it all goes back to blood and dust and piss and tears and shit and spit. And meanwhile, you are gone. Alright, that's the run. Thank you. Have a good day.